Welcome to the PSD Podcast. We hope you're joining us for each of the 7 episodes in this first season. As we gather for this 4th episode, our emphasis is mission societies. And there may be thoughts that come to mind when you hear that phrase. For many, it's a society that gathers to support international missions. They do that by prayer and funding. For others, it's a society that forms to plant a church in a particular area. But mission societies here in the Pacific Southwest District are broader than that, different than that. And we have 2 people who are going to give us insight into that and participate in some discussion. Joined today by Deaconess student Karen Swift and by Pastor John Elwood. Each of them works with a mission society, but before we even talk about that, would love for them just to tell us a little bit more about themselves.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. I'm Karen Swift. I am a lifelong Lutheran, grew up in the Pacific Southwest District from before it was, the Southern California District?
It was, yes.
And, went to Lutheran schools, kindergarten through high school. Then I went off to college that was not Lutheran. Remained active in the church, got married, became a stay-at-home mom, and got a job working as a church secretary once my kids were older, and was like, oh, we need more money.
That's a fantastic ministry. As church, you're running the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it happened to be a congregation that has Spanish language service. My uncle had been a pastor up in Panorama City here in LA. And he always complained about how there wasn't enough for our Spanish speakers. I pretty much ignored him because I'm like, okay, pass the potatoes, please. And when I started working at the church, I realized, he had been understating the problem. Before I knew it, whenever I'm having to deal with any organization, hey, this is great. Do you have it in Spanish too? No, but that's a great idea. It's like, no, but, do you think you could translate it for us? And then when I met Tardelli and the Mission Society, I had the offhand comment about how we needed Spanish speakers, and they're scattered everywhere. So what do we do? What if we had something like circuit riders? And now I have Priscilla Ministries, and I'm doing Bible studies for Spanish speakers at 3 different congregations.
So you are a part of a mission society in San Diego, and you referenced Tardelli. It's Pastor Tardelli Voss, who is the executive director of that mission society. And so Tardelli was not called to a congregation. He was not called to a school. He was called to this mission society. And I was there with you when it formed in San Diego, and we were all trying to figure out everything that meant. And it's a mission society that is designed to raise up everyday missionaries, people that may very well be a part of Lutheran churches in San Diego, but to enable them to discover and pursue the ministry that God has put on their heart. Is that an accurate description of that?
That's a really good description. I never envisioned myself as a missionary. Even though I had already started the deaconess program, I thought maybe I'd be in some parish ministry. And my idea of a missionary was from when I was a little girl, and one of my friends, her family moved to Nepal to become missionaries. So, but with the Mission Society, we lift up everyone. We have an organization that's the Brown Bag Project. That's for outreach to the homeless. We have another group that's doing ministry here at Camp Pendleton. We have ethnic ministries, and because San Diego is such a cross-border type multicultural place, we also do work with Tijuana.
And sometimes raising people up for that work and service happens in the context of a congregation, and sometimes it doesn't. As congregations get busy and have all kinds of other demands and opportunities, and the Mission Society partners with them to help make sure that happens among their people and members. But that's not the only expression of Mission Society. John, tell us a little bit about your journey and finding yourself as part of a Mission Society as well.
Yeah, our mission society, Coastal Mission Society, has a lot of similarities to San Diego Mission Society in that we also focus on training and raising up, preparing the priesthood of all believers for expansion of the kingdom. And just in their daily lives, what does it look like to live as a Christian, simply put? My history is that I've basically been planting churches my entire adult life. And from the age of 23 to about the pandemic, I was planting churches, leading church plants in the Pacific Northwest and then down here in Southern California. I grew up in the LCMS, but spent my entire church planting season among different groups. And now through the pandemic, through the wonders of the pandemic, we were able to come back to the LCMS, and it's been
We're delighted
amazing.
you're back.
Yeah, we're really stoked.
And it sounds like the Coastal Mission Society, so really up and down the coast from Santa Barbara to San Clemente.
Right. That's where we're focusing right now.
Is working with people to maybe find opportunities for ministry, or is it working with people to develop church plants more so?
Yeah, we're kind of taking a holistic approach to it. So, what we've really done is for years, the team that I have, I've known most of them for like 20 years. And we've been in conversations for years just about the Pauline method or strategy of kingdom expansion, underneath the leadership of the Holy Spirit. And so everything that we're doing really, it's nothing new to try and replicate or imitate Paul, but like what we're really trying to do is we've tried to extract principles for kingdom movement. And we come to it with the perspective that we're joining what's already been started. We're not trying to start anything new, really. But we start with churches that are already existing, largely Lutheran churches and any other churches really that want to be involved. And similar to San Diego Mission Society, we kind of go in, build relationships, try to find the people that already have a heart for mission or maybe engaging and just are either ill-resourced or not prepared well, need some sort of development. And we come in and we strengthen, but we also work with those churches to become sending churches. So one of the things that Paul was really adamant about in his whole missionary work was the idea of strengthening, establishing both believers and establishing churches. And so they both work hand in hand. And so that's kind of our approach is we're working with existing churches that one of the marks of establishing is that you actually become a sending church. And so, there's different churches in our district, for example, that probably have some capacity to send and plant churches on their own, send out missionaries, even local, even people just locally to start outreach-oriented ministries. But we have a lot of churches that probably would be better served by working together. And so we're also building small regional networks of sending so that when they come together, they are stronger. Some of these mission teams that are sent out, missionaries, we're really focusing on looking for like evangelists and people right now who are gifted in the groundwork. And we're seeing like already, we've been an official mission society for 4 months, I think 3 months. And we're already seeing probably 13 different teams emerging up and down the coast that, at least according to my experience and what I know, they could eventually possibly become, a mission congregation in and of themselves.
We referenced partnerships in a recent podcast and discussed congregations that may be working together toward merger or congregations that may be sharing a pastor. But it seems like mission societies are another form of partnership. These are supported by Lutheran congregations in each of these areas. These congregations are a part of what's going on. It's not something that's happening separate from them or apart from them, but it's a means by which congregations could come together and raise up missionaries in their own context, helping them discover ministry opportunities, or even consider church plants in particular areas as well.
Yeah. At the Mission Society, or I guess I have to say San Diego, it's very much about the community partnership working together. One of the things that the Mission Society does, about every 40 days, there is a Mission Society dinner, and they rotate. They're usually at a congregation that is exploring the Mission Societies, wanting to build a relationship with, or just curious, or just, wants to support. And the missionaries all gather. And we talk about what's happening in our ministries. We celebrate. We console each other with our problems. And it's just this community. And it goes throughout the entire region. Monday was our last one. It was down at Victory in Chula Vista.
Tell us more about Priscilla Ministries. You mentioned that. So this is the way God has worked through you, even as you train now as a deaconess student. But what is Priscilla Ministry?
Well, it's the idea of we have this need for Spanish speakers in ministry, as I mentioned before. But we don't have the resources. We don't have enough Spanish speakers in clumps that we have multiple churches with a Spanish language service. We have lots of Hispanic people who are going to one congregation maybe, but it's for their kids. Their kids like the church. It's all in English. They're not really getting it all that they could, but they're more worried, especially I've seen it with the moms. Esteban.
Someone we both know.
We both know. When he wanted to do confirmation, his parents, they were Spanish speakers, and they didn't know anything about being Lutherans. But their son was going to a Lutheran school, and he wanted to do confirmation. I realized we've got plenty of people like that in our congregations. So we need to be going out and finding them. So now with Priscilla Ministries, I've done a couple of speaking engagements in Tijuana. I've been invited to speak there. Right now, I'm leading a Bible study in Lemon Grove, a congregation that originally the neighborhood was not very Hispanic, but it is now very much Hispanic, and they feel a need for outreach. I've been doing Bible studies in Linda Vista, and it's just we got to bring it to the people. We have to find them and take it to them, and we don't have the resources to be fixed in one location.
So I'm picturing, based on your description, 40, 50 people throughout San Diego County who have been identified and raised up to be about a variety of different ministries. As you mentioned, it may be a brown bag homeless ministry, or as you are doing Spanish-speaking teaching and ministry. And they are gathering to be encouraged and to encourage one another. And they're working not just with the Mission Society, but in and with their own congregations. It's just this, it's this vehicle that is blessing and deepening what is going on in the congregations.
That is exactly it. I mean, I would probably be still working as the church secretary, trying to figure out what am I supposed to do with this deaconess certification? Where am I going to be called to? Through the Mission Society, I met Pastor Rick at Trinity. Through the Mission Society, I met Pastor Hob in Tijuana. I've partnered with doing stuff with Lutheran Border Concerns. It's just through these connections, I'm not isolated in this ministry. I'm not isolated in this idea. And I can build those relationships and identify people who will continue and expand, because I'm just me.
John, you have extraordinary experience with church planting, and certainly that comes to bear in the Mission Society. And church planting is something that we are always talking about, not just as a district, but as a synod. It's something about which we want to be effective and impactful. There've got to be some insights, really 2 or 3 things that you've experienced over the years, or you bring into the Mission Society that say, yeah, we've got to be about this.
Yeah. For a lot of groups that really haven't had church planting as their focus for a while, I know we have a rich history actually of it in the Pacific Southwest District and the LCMS. But for a lot that haven't been engaged in it for a while, there's a couple kind of misconceptions. One is that misconceptions as it concerns what a missionary is. One is that only ordained pastors who are shipped overseas into a jungle among primitive people who have never heard the gospel are really missionaries. And those definitely are missionaries. The other is another completely opposite extreme that says all Christians are missionaries. Everyone is meant to focus their entire life outward in their lives, that any inward focus is wrong, and it places this burden on people maybe who weren't gifted that way. So what we're doing is we're really trying to take a realistic look at it and say, look at the Lutheran doctrine of vocation, which has been huge for me in my ministry, that your work that you already are engaged in, or the roles that you have in life, are made holy because of your faith, not because anybody deems it to you. And so as Carol and I, my wife and I, as we've planted churches over the years, we started really with that approach, not going into a community as the experts or as, some clergy that's been deemed, although we've definitely had been deemed by groups, but going in as friends, starting with just simply like our jobs, what are the relationships we make there, our neighbors. Recreation's huge. I love sailing. And so, we've made a lot of friendships through that, and baseball. And so, we start by simply just building friendships. And so when we talk about, working with some of these new missionaries, like what you're doing in San Diego, a lot of this is starting by training people simply how to build those relationships, not with the purpose of building relationships as projects. We never think people are projects, but with intentionality. And so as you make relationships, you're keeping track of the people you're meeting, you're getting to know their names, just some of those real basic things that we tend to forget, and being aware that where God has placed us is exactly where he wants to proclaim his word through our work, through our words, in everything that we're doing, just by our presence being there. And so, we're as church planners, we've always tried to take that approach and posture ourselves, but I think the way that the church, God's grown the churches that we've been able to help start, is simply we've had our eyes open for people with the same attitude. Christians that maybe are called to this kind of work and focusing more on it. And then also, friends that we meet who are people of peace that are welcoming us into their lives. They respond to our friendship and our message. And before you know it, the community starts to build.
There are a number of recurring themes that are emphasized in these podcasts, and not even by design, but as we have discussions about church worker recruitment, or we interact about outreach and witness. And now as we talk about mission societies, one of the themes is an emphasis on just getting to know people, having a discussion with someone. It seems so basic, and yet in a polarized culture, it's not happening in the way that it once did, in the way that it needs to happen. And I'm hearing that from both of you too, just engaging with your neighbors, your family and friends, to talk about the ways God may be at work, talking with other people in your congregation about what God may be doing, having those discussions that we tend not to have as we once did.
Yeah, we're and I'm just amazed at the opportunity God's giving, at least our mission society, to come alongside churches for that purpose. A couple examples I'd love to give if I can. One is one of the groups that I'm working with right now. I've been writing this Old Testament study. Sounds kind of odd. What does that have to do with church planning? But it's we're tracing the mission of God through the Old Testament, pointing to Jesus. And so we've got about 25, sometimes 30 guys up in the Long Beach area that come together, and most of them are baby boomers who are retired, and they all want somehow to use their retirement for the advancement of the gospel. These are just normal guys. I mean, most of them were in construction or teachers, even a couple lawyers, and all retired. And it's really cool to watch them as they're looking at the mission of God and God's heart for finding us, reaching us, serving and loving us, calling us his own. They're starting to grasp the idea of seeing their neighbors that way. And so there was a story this last week, just very simply, that, one of the guys was expressing how he had never, ever made an effort to reach out to his neighbors, to get to know them or proclaim the gospel to them. And so he was determined on the basis of this study to go and finally meet someone. And he did. And God provided the opportunity for him to actually talk about the church and talk about his faith. And then he found ways to start serving his neighbors. Now they've built a friendship just in like the last 3 weeks. Very simple story. We also have, though, on the other end of the spectrum, a guy who I've known for a while who is getting involved with us. His name's Eric Shulkin, and he's one of these he's gifted evangelistically, right? I'm more introverted, so like for me, I've really got to push myself to get out there and
You're
meet
not alone
people.
for many people.
Yeah.
I hear you. I'm introverted too.
And it's terrifying for me, honestly, but it's a discipline for me. Eric is the complete opposite. He's a dude who walks into a room and he's automatically everybody's friend. Everyone loves him. He's kind of a surfer guy, right? Real laid back and easygoing. His history is that he has been recovered for years now from alcohol and meth addiction. And now he's coming and working with us, working among recovery groups that he's starting in partnership with different treatment centers and churches in South Orange County and North San Diego County. And he's, within the last couple of months, he's just been simply building friendships with people who are going through the same thing that he went through, stepping in and caring for them. He's actually using the small catechism. I still am trying to figure out how he's doing this, but he's using the small catechism to somehow help guide them through their recovery. And he takes, and what he's doing now is he started taking like groups of 3 of them down to the pier in San Clemente, I think on Wednesdays or Thursdays. And they just show up on the pier with a stack full of these little pamphlet catechisms and just start discussing Jesus, having discussions. And he goes, "Hey, John, you wouldn't believe it. Last week we had 50 people that were gathered around just asking questions. And we were all discussing this."
That's
like
incredible.
50 people. Like, really?
That's amazing.
So
I got to go down to San Clemente.
I know, me too. So we're working with all kinds of people at different levels of experience and, giftedness, but really the idea is through these partnerships, helping people see where their God-given calling is and that they are on the basis of their baptism ordained for this ministry.
That's a CFW Walther quote.
It is.
If I'm not mistaken.
It is.
We have talked about mission societies in Southern California. Our desire as a district is to have them in Nevada and Arizona, to see these develop in each of those places. And we find ourselves as a district team having discussions about that. But I want to invite those discussions from any of our listeners who may be in other parts of the district. Be encouraged to reach out and engage us. We would be delighted to walk alongside you for the formation of mission societies in whatever iteration, in whatever way they express themselves. But for those in Southern California, and those who may be church workers, teachers, DCEs, pastors, who have people in their congregation that have said, I'm interested in pursuing this, or, God has given me this particular gift or ability, and they're not sure as a church what to do with that or how to encourage and support them in that. Or for those who are listening to us who have that particular passion and ability, are there recommendations you would give counsel? What's their next step? Do they reach out to somebody? Do they just make it happen?
Yeah, for us, our website is kind of a basic place where you can gather some information and get connected to us, see what we're doing. We're starting up several different cohorts, learning cohorts, where we start just doing kind of some basic training around this kind of stuff, conversations. And that's a great way to get kind of introduced to the idea. Me personally, and then a couple of guys on my team, we're also working with staffs of churches. I'm working with one right now in Long Beach, church that's actually my sending church, Bethany Lutheran. And we're going through just some basic ways of starting to view our ministries, not in terms of inside, but looking outside also. So every ministry that has like an inside or inward focus, in reach, can have elements to it that are also outreach. And the other big thing I would say too is we're constantly looking for people to kind of recruit to this. So, I'm building as many relationships as I can with young leaders, emerging leaders, even in my church, for example, there's, probably half a dozen middle school and high school kids that I got my eye on, college students that we would love to come alongside and just simply, even starting out casually, just having some of these conversations, share stories about the mission of God, that what happened in the book of Acts can actually happen now, same spirit moving, and engage them in that. So.
Yeah, and for the Lutheran Mission Society of San Diego, also our website is probably the best way to find out more, how to contact. We also, every week, we publish on our website an inspirational story highlighting one of the missionaries. So, and then also connecting through the dinners. They're, hosted every 40 days or so, and they've moved around the county.
And it sounds like this is something, again, that happens in partnership with pastors, with congregations. It's not something in which people are being invited into Mission Society and pastors have no idea what's going on or any of that. But it's really a way to help and assist in raising people up for a variety of opportunities.
Yeah, we're definitely working with the congregations in San Diego County and across the border, with the pastors, with the church leaders. We're looking towards the future, who can be raised up in the different congregations, establishing new ministries. It's very much, how do we serve the community?
Yeah, we work within the district, among our churches. So we're not like some rogue organization. However, a mission society by its nature is meant to be able to help spur and mobilize action, equip, see mission go out, maybe with fewer encumbrances. So that's kind of the posture we're taking in our partnerships, is we're not only providing a way that people can actually start being developed and released by their churches, but we're coming alongside churches in friendship and partnership. So, yeah.
It's something that we're all figuring out. It's an exciting new work of ministry that God is doing through each of these mission societies. Are there things we haven't talked about? Are there?
I think with the partnerships, that's such a big thing, that I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, because, having come from the last 3 decades of working in an evangelical world, I'm still kind of getting my bearings a little bit with the Lutheran culture, but I'm finding that most of the Lutheran churches I'm talking to are just incredibly hospitable and excited about this kind of thing. We've got churches opening up their facilities for us to do training and development cohorts. We've got churches that are jumping in and saying, how do I become a charter member of your mission society and help contribute financially? And I'm like, well, that's nice. Thank you.
That's tremendous.
I don't like fundraising. So when they offer, it's great. But, and then we also have, and I know this is something actually I know Tardelli's been doing a lot in San Diego with your mission society, is finding congregations that can kind of host a missionary. So for example, we have a guy that I've recently gotten to know up in the hills above the valley, up in San Fernando Valley. And he's landed there with his wife. He's a Lutheran guy from Jordan. His wife is Syrian. And he is like a professional soccer player, coaches for FIFA.
Wow.
And he goes, John, that's my ministry. He said, everything I do with FIFA is for the purpose of building relationships and seeing new communities of faith come together. And so we're working right now with a church up in Santa Clarita to partner them together. They're a stronger congregation, and partnering them together with him to kind of be like an Antioch type church for him, a church that can send, he can report back to, they can love on him, care for him and his family and his ministries. And that guy has like three home kind of churches, communities meeting right now that are developing, which is exciting. So, yeah. And so those partner churches can take projects like that, say, this is our project too, and pour prayer and resources and energy and love into those. So.
Oh, and the beauty of that is that also revitalizes that congregation.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's something with church planting that I've seen throughout my entire career, if you want to call it that. is that's the most counterintuitive thing, that when a church discovers how to give itself away, how to becomes a sending church, a generous church with resources, people, everything, it actually grows stronger. So many churches I've talked to that want to become a sending church, they think it's this massive undertaking that we're going to lose all these people and we're going to lose all this money. And yes, there's going to be sacrifice for sure. But I've seen more often than not that when a church actually sends out a team or sends out people to plant a church, God replaces those people, sometimes with even more gifted people. And the church is usually surprised at what it does for its own existing church.
I'm delighted to hear that churches have been not just hospitable, but engaged. That is our faith. That is our theology, that God is at work to bring more and more people to faith in Christ. It is the reason Christ has not yet returned. And we're delighted for the way that is happening through these mission societies and for the way God is working through each of you. Thank you so much for joining us, for being a part of the Pacific Southwest District. If you'd like to learn more about mission societies, please visit the websites that Karen and John mentioned, or visit our PSD site at psd-lcms.org.